you're joining from. Good afternoon by my time. Welcome to today's webinar. Um, okay. I'm using your system, so forgive me if I'm a little rusty with this. All right, so welcome. Thank you for joining. I am glad to have you here. It's an honor to have you here. Thank you so much. Welcome to today's webinar. You can tell me in the chat where you're joining from. That would be great. I can't seem to see a lot of things, but believe me, I tested this out. But anyway, learning curves. All right, so welcome. Happy 2023 once again, everyone. Yes, I know 1 month is gone already, but I really hope that it's been a great year for you so far. It's glad to have you join me here. Today promises to be a very informative one. It promises to be a very fun session. I will do my best to capture all the conversations. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I think I should be able to see them. Yes, I will be able to see them. Actually, yes, there it is. So, yeah, welcome. All right, without much ado, we're going to jump right in. This is the webinar on how to be productive in 2023. And this is to help you, crush those goals that you have set. I know many of you have set your vision boards, you've set your goals for the year, you have them target set. But this is to make sure that you actually get into them because I don't know about you. I have been in a place in my life before where I set goals and the year ends and I'm wondering, what the heck did I do with this year? All right. And so this is to make sure that you're not in that place and to just really bring everything together. So please, I don't want to be here by myself. I see there are a number of people online. Please let me know where you're joining from. If you can even drop a name, because I can't seem to really see everything in one place. But oh well. Okay. And please feel free to share this. The more the merrier. And so let's go. Let's jump right in. All right. So before we actually fully jump in, a little introduction. I don't want to assume that everyone who's joining or that everyone who's going to see this knows who I am. My name is Anita Adefuye. I should warn you, I wear many hats, and trust me when I tell you, this is not even an exhaustive list. So, my name is Anita Adefuye. I'm an author of the best-selling book Revealed, and Revealed really is a chronicle of my life story on how I rose above the ills of child sexual abuse, depression, and other mental related issues, societal thoughts, and whatnot. It's a great book on resilience. Sometimes I hear people, hi, Pam, thank you for dropping a message there. I see people online. Please, people, let me know where you are. I don't want to. This system makes me feel like I'm in this by myself, and I know I'm not. All right. So, um, yeah, so I know many people go through things in life and they think that's the end of their lives. Revealed really, by the time you read the book, you realize that nope, I can really pick up my life and I can still have a great life no matter what I've been through. I'm also the founder of Loud Silences, which closely ties with Revealed. And this is a blogging platform where I then address and create awareness on issues of the things that I myself have been through. So sexual violence, mental health issues, and just overall undoing the culture of silence. All right, that's what you'll find there. Of course, I'm also the founder of Advanced and Fulfilled Coaching Company, which is the hats that I think I'm wearing today because it's supposed to be a day for ladies arise. But let's just get this one out of the way for everybody. Men are invited to this one. So, men, you can't say that we didn't try to balance the skills for you. Advanced and Fulfilled, I seek to help racialized Canadians, really just have a fulfilling career, but beyond that, just to be personally and professionally have a good sink in their lives and live fulfilled lives. And finally, I talked about Ladies Arise. So I'm the co-founder, really. I have a co-founder for Ladies Arise, really. And it's a women empowerment platform. And it actually started as a book club. We read one book every month. We get together, talk about the book and learn from it, and then take away action items. So people think, the ladies, and ladies are right for borrowing us this time. So thank you, ladies. Yes, thank you, Tayo. Thank you, Temilolua. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I see all my people from Regina. Thank you guys for joining. And so I do all of these things, and there are many platforms through which I express them: YouTubing, blogging, speaking. And then in my 9 to 5 job, I work as a policy expert. Currently, I've made a switch from policy, a bit from policy more into strategy execution and portfolio management. It's an awesome role and it's been great. So overall, I have tons of years of experience in business development, diplomacy, project management, sales, marketing, operations, leadership. So like I said, yeah, it's a whole lot. But overall, and here's the one thing that really caps it all for me, is that I'm committed. I'm a committed partner to people around me. I work to evolve myself as an individual, and I like to see that happen for people around me. And so, if you know me and I know you, whether virtually, in person, believe you me, I am committed to your success, and I want to see you succeed. And this is why I do the things that I do. I don't know it all. I don't, guys. So please, we're learning together here today. But the little that I have and what has worked for me, I seek to teach others so that I can bring so many people alongside with me, especially my gender, women. So yeah, that's a little about me. But in all of the hats that I wear, these amazing people that you see here with me, standing beside that beautiful woman there, in all of the amazing hats that I wear, nothing compares to being a wife to my amazing husband and mother to my babies. And this is not a hat that I wear, actually. This is who I am. All right. And I have to recognize these people because they are my number one fans and supporters. And without their support, I won't do probably a lot of things that I do. I probably won't do them. So thank you, guys. Love you much. All right. So who's ready to jump in? Are we good to go? What can we expect in today's session? We're going to look at what productivity is. We're going to look at the number one determinant for productivity. We're going to be looking at the three S's of productivity hacks. Get these ones right, and you pretty much have your life, kind of almost in autopilot, to a very large extent. We're going to look at two divergent enablers and two convergent drivers of productivity, and we're going to look at a core element, and then we're going to look at daily rule of thumb, and we're going to look at the daily tracker. Now, you would find the link to the tracker with this video. Feel free to I'll just wait till the end so that you get more context. It's very simple. It's a very straightforward thing, but wait till the end to really see what it is. For us to talk about it so that you can appreciate the use of the tracker better. So, but this is just high level what we're going to go through. And then, yeah, and in between, we're going to have breaks. So I'm not just going to sit here and talk. The break really is for me than it is for you, I think. But we're going to have breaks. I am going to have breaks. Okay. So let's start from the very beginning. All right. If we're going to talk about productivity, we're going to have to talk about what it is. So tell me in the chat what you think when you hear the word productivity. What comes to your mind when you hear the word productivity? And while I'm just waiting for those chats to come in, I just want to say that, I know if you're an economist on the line, you're probably thinking, economical terminologies are coming to mind right now, inputs versus outputs of production or services or whatever, all of those things. No, but that's not what I mean. I mean, same concept, same rule of thumb when you really think about it. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're talking about your productivity, my productivity, for us as individuals. That's what we are talking about. So, what is productivity? And this is right there. Okay. All right. All right. So for me, and this is how I have come to define productivity, just looking at different things and looking at different concepts and definitions out there. And even for me personally, I define productivity as how you organize your responsibilities, your goals, your actions, and routines to efficiently and consistently complete the tasks that matter the most. All right. So I will take that again. Okay. I define productivity as the as how you organize your responsibilities, your goals, your actions, and routines to efficiently and consistently complete the tasks that matter the most. And here's the thing about productivity is that it is built on your chosen system that help you prioritize what's critical to your success with a sense of balance. And so it is what is critical to your success, but it also gives you that sense of balance where you can pull from different areas of your life. And I'm sure so many of us, we've written our goals. We have different pieces of our lives that we've probably put goals to that we say we want to achieve. Maybe it's in your education. Hi, Kende. Thank you for joining. Maybe it's in your education, maybe it's in your career, maybe it's in your health. We have those different. So what productivity does is it gives you that sense of balance in pulling all those different pieces together. Now there's going to be a little fun activity that we're going to have here. Uh, Next slide, I will show you the keywords from the definition we just had. But I left out something, and I'm going to need you to tell me what that something is. So we talked about some of the keywords from that definition: organize, responsibilities, goals, routines, efficiency, attention, system, prioritizing, success, balance, tasks, consistency. Hi, Deborah. Thank you for joining. Good to see you here. So these are some of the keywords, and I need you to pay attention to these words because you're going to hear it all through this conversation. You're going to hear it a lot all through these conversations. And then it's going to start to feel like a puzzle that comes together with all of these different words. But I left something fundamental from the keywords. All right, I'll ask for it when it's time. But for now, let's look at what productivity is not. Now we know what productivity is. Let us look at what it is not, because it's important that we also define that for ourselves. Now, productivity is not busyness. How many of us have heard people say, "Oh, I didn't do this, or I sorry, I didn't get back because I was so busy. I didn't do XYZ because I was so busy." You can't show up to your kids' game. I was so busy. You're never, just the busy word, the busy bees of life. The people who are busy bees. How many of us know busy bees? All right. So when you hear people say, "Oh, I was busy, 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 busy," stop them in their tracks and say, "Busy doing what?" Because truth is that it's not even only people that say those things. We ourselves have said them. I have said them several times. All right. But I am learning now, whenever I hear myself say the words, "I didn't do XYZ because I was busy," I stop myself in my head and I say, "Anita, busy doing what exactly?" Because oftentimes we do a lot of things, no results. At the end of the day, we're exhausted, we're tired, and then we think back on our day and it's like, what did I even do with the day? Absolutely nothing, but you were busy. All right. So productivity is not busy. That you're busy doing 50,000 things does not mean that you're being productive. All right. Many of us think that having endless to-do lists mean that we're being productive or that it shows that we're goal-oriented people. Not necessarily. It doesn't. All right. If it's not moving you closer to the results that you or to your goals and visions of life, then I'm sorry, you're just busy. You're not productive. The second thought is that productivity is not multitasking. This is the part where all the mothers in the house just left. They're like, "Nope, we're not doing this with you, Anita, today." How dare you sit there and tell us that productivity is not multitasking? Okay, please come back. We're sorry. The truth is, now there are if you're doing non-brain tasking functions. So, for instance, you're folding laundry and then you're cooking. I mean, those can go together. And yes, by the definition of it, that might sound like multitasking. It is doing more than one thing at a time just to create, efficiency. However, you cannot say write an article and you can't write an article and then be in a meeting effectively at the same time, and that's the truth. All right, so research shows that when you start doing two brain function activities like that, your productivity actually decreases by 40%. By 40%. All right, so yes, there are certain tasks that you can do, combined, but not everything. All right, and the fact that you're doing 50 things at the same time, and it really, you can't even do them at the same time when you think about it, right? You can overlay things right? But it's not like it's happening right at the same time. Okay, so let's get that straight. All right, so women, please come back because I know that we pride ourselves on this. Women can do 50 things at the same time. Not necessarily. It depends. All right. When it requires brain work, you can't. But when there are mundane things that you can do unconsciously, then maybe yes. But even at that, when you take away the power of focus, then you're not really present and you're not mindful and you can't really enjoy the process of what you're doing. Okay. So productivity is not business, it's not multitasking. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat wherever you are joining from. If you're joining from Facebook or YouTube, and I'm sorry, I know we promised Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, but unfortunately, we couldn't get the LinkedIn to work with this. But if you're joining from Facebook or YouTube, drop your questions. I'll actually get them in the chat. I figured it out. I get them in the chat box here, and I'll be happy to answer. If you have comments as well, like I said, I don't have all the answers. We're learning together. The little I have understood and has worked for me, I'm teaching that because I want everyone to succeed. I want you to succeed. Hi, Confidence. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we've talked about what productivity is, what it is not. Let's talk about why it is important. The number one reason why productivity is important, and this one is a no brainer, you can get more done. All right. Number one is that you can get more done. And let me put a caveat, sometimes more is actually less. Okay. So more time, more things done in time, but to free yourself up for things that are truly important to you. All right. So, for instance, if you're productive at work, you can go home feeling confident, feeling relaxed, and then you can really spend time and be present with your family. Who doesn't want that? I mean, I want that. All right. Hi, BC. Thank you for joining. Good to have you here. All right. Please, guys, feel free to share on your statuses, share to groups, share to wherever. I think everyone needs this, and I'm grateful to have you all here with me today. All right. So you can go home and not worry about pending tasks that are bugging your mind. How many of us have had that feeling where you're at home, but then you really can't relax because your mind is really not there. It's on that thing that you didn't finish, and you're worried, what if somebody requests for it by Monday morning? And that starts to happen. But when you're productive, you free yourself up to really chill and relax. Number two is that productivity actually keeps you committed to your purpose overall in life, right? So you see those visions and goals that you have set for the year, they're not going to magically happen. The truth is that what you're doing today, right now, actually adds to those vision and goals, believe it or not. What you're going to do by the time you're done this webinar adds to it or not. What I am doing adds to my visions for the year. All right. But it's the everyday daily ads that really counts. The things you do. It's the little things that come out to be the big things. All right. I remember when I was writing my book, it started with a title. The title was not even revealed. That title changed severally until I took some time and then went, that one is a whole conversation, but anyway, went back into a moment of retreats and sat with God and said, I need a word for this book. This isn't my thing and I need help. All right. So, but it started with few words, and then few words became 500 words, and then 500 words became 1,000, and 1,000 became, I think I revealed, has over 80,000 words, 83,000 words precisely, and somewhere and some fractions there. But it didn't start off with 83,000 words, and it definitely didn't take 1 week to write. All right. So it's the little things that added up. All right. Thank you, Abby, for joining. So glad to have you here. All right. So the little things, productivity helps you stay committed because we're going to see what that looks like and how it ties in together. Number three, it helps boost your confidence. It helps you boost your confidence. Just imagine going home every day and you achieve the things you want to do. How do you feel? Truth is that we all feel very energized. We all feel very alive. We all feel like, yes, bring it on. What else is there to do? I just want to rock things today. Right now, you can feel that way. Imagine having to feel that way every day. All right. So there's something called self efficacy. All right. If you've been a client of mine before in Advanced and Fulfilled, you probably have heard that phrase before. Self-efficacy. And what it means is once believing is or a capacity to execute behaviors that are necessary to produce specific performance attainments. And so when you've done it in A, you can tell yourself, "Ah, I can do it in B," right? And so it gives you that confidence that you need to face the next thing. So I think about someone like David in the Bible, right? Sorry, I'm Christian. Well, did I say sorry? I never apologize for that actually. But for benefits of those who may not know me well enough, I'm Christian, and believe you me, even when I'm not quoting scriptures, I get the most of my inspiration and ideas from my time spent in prayer, meditation, and from spending time in the Word of God called the Bible. All right. And so sometimes I'll give you examples from some of those things that really pulled the inspiration for me. All right. So I think about the story of David in the Bible. David was a king of Israel. All right. When he showed up before the previous king, Saul, to fight Goliath. Many of us, even if you're not familiar with the Bible, you probably have heard about, the analogy of the David to the Goliath story. The reason David could really stand and say, "I can fight this uncircumcised Philistine," was he pulled on a previous result. He pulled on confidence for a previous result to say, "Once upon a time, I had this person in my life called God who showed up for me, and I killed lions, I killed bears." I know people say he killed a lion and killed a bear. No, it's bears and lions. All right. And I protected the sheep. So I can, the same way, I know that there is something within me that can replicate that result towards this uncircumcised Philistine. And that was what he really was doing, was leveraging on self-efficacy. So what are some of the things that you've been productive on before you've achieved? Some of you've been able to go through undergrad. That would, when you want to go through your master's, if that's in your plan for this year, then pull on some of the results from there and apply it as a confidence booster. And then number four, you get recognized as a problem solver. Who doesn't want that kind of reputation where when there are issues, they'll say, "Go call this person." When they show up on the scene, I know that they would make things happen. And finally, productive people actually tend to live more holistic lives because, again, you're pulling on different pieces of your life. And remember the definition that we had, right? It helps you pull those different pieces with a sense of balance. Okay. That is what it is. And so we've understood what it is, what it's not, why it's important. And we're gonna have a break coming up very soon. And this is just gonna be a quick 1 minute, 2 minute break. Stretch your legs, do whatever you want to do. I will be here. Okay, so with all that I have said, it brings this quote to mind. All right. And I remember stumbling on this quote a long time ago. And that really was what started to trigger the need to do something, to teach people on some of the things that have worked for me, the things that I've read from books. Remember, I said we read books and ladies arise. All right. I personally agree with him. He says, "Don't be fooled by the calendar. There are only as many days in the year as you make use of. One person gets only a week's value out of a year, while another gets a full year's value out of a week. Which person would you rather be?" I don't know about you, but I'd rather be the kind of person who can get who can get a year's value out of a week. All right. And that means that you're really crushing those goals. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you a quick um 1 minute break, take a sip of water. I think I actually will take a sip of water, take a sip of water. I know you've been trying to not get pulled away, but now you can quickly share the link and tell somebody, "Hey, you want to come on board? There's something fun happening." Now we have no excuse for not meeting our goals in the year because we're going to learn how to make that happen. So be right with you. Okay. I don't know if anybody went anywhere, to be honest with you. I just took a sip of water. All right. So earlier on, I talked about that one fundamental keyword that was missing. Does anybody have that word figured out? I will give you time to actually answer this one. Does anybody have that word figured out? Come on, people. Remember those keywords? If you want, I can pull it up again for you. So, first of all, here was the definition we gave for productivity. No, that's the wrong one. So we said that productivity is how you organize your responsibilities, goals, actions, and routines to efficiently and consistently complete the tasks that matter the most. And it is built on your chosen system that helps you prioritize what's critical to your success with a sense of balance. And these were some of the keywords that we identified from that definition. And I said something fundamental was missing from this keyword. Who has that answer? Who's got that answer? Anybody? Okay, Tammy says time. Okay. Okay, I think there's a bit of a log, so there might be some awkward pauses. Just throwing that out there in the spirit of transparency. Okay, Timmy says time. Let's see if any other responses come in. Expected results. Hmm. I think we talked about results or goals. Time. Time. Let's see. Okay. It's one word. That's as much clue that I'll give you. It is one word. Okay. I don't know if any more responses are coming, so I'm just going to reveal. Drum roll, please. And the answer is you. You are the number one determinant. So if you were thinking you're right. Yes, time. Time is a key one. Absolutely. But I think we talked about time already. But the number one determinant on whether or not you become productive really is you. Because without you, remember it says that it is how you organize yourself. All right. It is how you organize your responsibilities, your goals, your actions, and routines to help you efficiently and consistently complete the tasks that matter the most, not someone else. It is not determined by someone else. All right. Now, here's what I want you to do. Take a pause and say to yourself, I, put your name there. For me, it's I, Anita, commits to being productive in this year 2023. I know I can, and I commit to being so. So help me God. All right. Nobody's going to come do it for you, and that's the truth. All right. So now that you realize that you are the deciding factor and not someone else, we can definitely move on. And at some point in this conversation, I'll also come back to talk a little bit more about the you and the role that you play and how some of the things that we talk about tie in together. So watch out for that. Um, so at the end of the day, what you really want to think about is that again, the definition says that you are as a determinant, you define what success means to you. Now, this is important because success for someone at the end of the year, so let's say, for instance, to one person, their goal might be to just develop healthy habits, right? So maybe incorporate things like walking, incorporate things like healthy eating. I want to eat more greens. And to someone else, that goal might really be, I want to lose 20 pounds, right? At the end of the day, some of their habits might seem similar, but the truth is that one person may not be as you know, may not lose weight, but as long as they have those things incorporated into their lives, by that definition, they would have been successful. And you might be there thinking, oh, well, this person is this or that's, but you, that definition differs to different people. So sit down and ask yourself, if you haven't, what does success mean to me as an individual? In all the things that I think I want to do in this year, what does success look like to me? And then stay committed to that in your daily living. Okay. All right. So now we're going to jump into the three S's of productivity hacks. All right. We're going to jump into that. And as we come into this section now, I can't help but ask if you've ever wondered how some people get so much done in one day, and you're wondering, what did I do in my life? Right? Truth is that, you know, yeah, you're probably thinking, well, they have one secret sauce they don't want to share with the rest of us. Yeah, they do have a sauce. Now, whether or not it's secret, I don't know. However, some of us, we've heard these things before. Maybe we have a hard time accepting it for whatever reason. All right. So there might be some mindset shift that you also need to do. Okay. And these three things are very fundamental to anybody who's going to be productive, consistently, and make something meaningful out of their lives. All right. We'll spend some time here because it's the heavy lift of the whole conversation on productivity. All right. But yeah. So yes, they do have a system, and I am jumping ahead of myself. So the three S's are systems, structures, and supports. That's what they are: systems, structures, and support. And we're going to be looking at each of these in more details. So first, we're going to look at systems. All right. What is a system? Okay, a system really is just, and I'm just going to give you like textbook definition of what a system is, at least as it relates to this context, right? So a system is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done. So, an organized framework or method. All right. So, I'll take that again. A system is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done. An organized framework or method. For instance, if you think about different um, pieces, and I kind of have this picture up there of the planet system, right? Now there's the solar system. What's the correct word now? Anyway, the solar system, right? It's a collection of several universal elements that revolves around the sun. All right. Now, can you imagine for a moment that one of these planets just chooses to no longer function as they should? What do you think would happen? Imagine the sun just decides, I'm just going to gravitate a little more away from where I have been set. It would definitely have impact on everything else, right? And so when you really think about your life too, all right, it's a set of different things working together. They're interconnected. Your health is connected to your spiritual life. It's connected to your career. It's connected to your finance. It's interconnected. It's connected to your family. Within each of those different units, there are different things that happen, right? So for instance, for me, in planning my time and committing to things that I do, I have to think about my career. I have to think about my business. I have to think about my family. Now, within that family, I have to think about my kids' schedule. I have to think about my husband's schedule. I have to think about several things. There are different things that are working together. And so a system really just helps all of these things function in a patterned way that does not allow any breakdown, because a breakdown in one element within a system will typically lead to dire consequences. So your digestive system, for instance, if how you swallow starts to have a problem, you're definitely going to have a problem digesting, but then it also affects your entire body and your entire makeup, right? So yeah, so there are multiple things that are going on at different times in our lives, and we want to make sure that we have systems in place that help us. If you're somebody like me with multi things and platforms that you have to manage and do and work with, then you definitely need a system. Even if you're just go to work, come back and do nothing, you still need a system to function within that work. You need a system that helps you produce results consistently. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. When it comes to systems and productivity, there's a lot of conversation out there, but it really, I just put it down to these 10 productivity systems that I found, and just kind of working through. All right, now I'm not going to go over all the 10. The ones that you see underlined are the ones that I personally use and or have used at different times in my life. And so yeah, those are the ones that I would really speak to. All right. If you're in Ladies Arise, you're probably seeing something that you recognize there, unless you did not read that book of the month. All right. So I just want to put a disclaimer out there that I adopted this. I looked through several things, but then I adopted this 10, and the things that I'm going to talk about from the specific ones that I have used, they were adopted from a platform called simplylearn.com. So they're not my original words. This 10 are none of my original words, but they best capture some of the things that I want to be able to communicate today. So the ones that I have used is a system, a productivity system called Eat That Frog. So ladies arise, people, we read this book on time management, procrastination, and productivity. All right. And what this concept means is that you do the hardest things first. And so, when you really think about that concept of self efficacy that we talked about earlier, when you do the hardest thing first and you get that out of your day or out of your way on a daily basis, what it then does for you is that you've done with the hardest thing. So you can go on to the less, the easier things. And it's easier to then get through the day. And then you kind of like, it's kind of like a burden lift. You're not thinking about, oh, there's this thing that I need to still do. There's this thing that I still need to do. So the concept of eat that frog is that if you have multiple frogs to eat or multiple tasks to do, eat the ugliest one first. And so the ugliest one will be the hardest task or the most daunting task. And so that's what the eat that frog productivity system allows you to do. Now, the problem with this system that I found is that sometimes the most daunting thing might not necessarily be as important to do in your day. And so you don't want to always just do the most daunting thing because it's scary to do, but then it really adds nothing or doesn't move the dial in your life. And so one thing I'll tell you right off the bat is that it's not possible to stick to just one system. And I think this is where a lot of people have struggled. I've heard people say, oh, I use the Pomodoro system, however that thing is pronounced, or that I use time blocking system. Problem is that each of this system in and of themselves have their pros and cons. And if you consistently want to stick to one, you may run into issues because the cons would always rear their ugly heads. And so it's that sweet balance between using a couple of them and knowing what you need per time. And that's why, and like I said, I have used some of these ones before, in my life. And at some points I've used a combination of them before. And so, if you haven't read the book Eat That Frog, I highly recommend it, and I have a link to it in this video. I strongly recommend. Please get the book. Disclaimer: yes, I do have him as an affiliate, so if you use that link, I might be getting some commission out of it. But just putting that out there in the spirit of transparency, and I think somehow legally I'm required to say that. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, but the key thing is that invest in your knowledge. All right, invest in your knowledge and buy books and read. Part of the things in Leaders Arise we do is that we get this book. Sometimes when people reach out and say, oh, is there a place I can get the free copy of the book? I said, nope, go and buy it because you need to learn how to invest in yourself. Investing in yourself is not only in Brazilian wig or whatever it is that people wear. I don't wear wigs, so I don't know what is the latest thing out there today. I don't wear wigs. Investing in yourself is part of it is the knowledge so that you set yourself apart. Okay. The other ones that I have used and I will talk about is the time blocking system. So when I was writing my book, I used this system a lot. So I had time blockers in my calendar. Saturdays, there were times that were blocked out in my calendar. Even when I was going through my master's program at the University of Regina, I used time blocking a lot. So most Sundays after church, you'll see that I'm off to the school. And I remember then my family would drop me off at school, and within the hours of 2 and 5:30, I will get all my assignments done. I don't wait till assignments are due, and I'll block out those times. In those times, if you call me, you won't reach me. All right. And there are times that, even when writing my book, those were mostly night hours because I flow better at night. And so I'd have those times blocked out, or early hours of the morning, the days that I can get to it early in the morning. And so this really helps. And even at work, it helps. For some of us who may or may not know, Outlook, if you use Outlook at work, it actually has built-in features that can help you block out times to focus. And when you have those times, and you're focusing, it limits the messages that you get and emails until that time block is over. So leverage those things. All right. So I will typically use that a bit sometimes with SMART goals to say, I want to achieve XYZ by the end of today. And then what are some times that I can block to make sure that I'm able to do that? All right. So when I was writing my book again, this was very helpful. Combined with SMART goals, we had a number of words I had to produce every week. So it didn't matter if I did it every day. At the end of the week, I'll just produce those words. I think it was 2,500 words. I was committed to, no, I was committed to 2,000 words a week, 500 words per day. So which really means that it's 4 days of writing, 500 words, or however I choose to break it down. All right. So, but I'll just time block. The other one that I have used is the Eisenhower matrix. And this one is very common. 4 quadrants: urgent and important, urgent but not important but not urgent or important. And what it really means is that you want to focus on the things that are important and urgent. So it's finding the balance between what is urgent, what is important, and all of that. The problem with this one, however, is that sometimes what is urgent is not always dependent on you as the individual, especially let's say if you're at work, right? Today's something you have 3 weeks to work on it. The next day, now it's a priority and you need to produce it in the next 3 hours. It just moved within your quadrants, right? And if you don't know how to quickly pivot within your time, and we're going to look at what helps you do that. If you don't know how to quickly pivot, then you run into troubles and you're not able to do it. And then guess what? That thing now becomes an ugly frog to you. And then it becomes daunting. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I have this thing to do. I can't get to it. It's bugging me. And then I can't now get to all these other things because I can't finish this one thing. That cycle, I don't know how many of us have been in that cycle. Okay. And then finally, the Zen to Dawn. This one leverages habit optimization. Again, in Ladies Arise, we've read a book. It's called Atomic Habits. I strongly recommend that you get that book as well. And the Zen to Dawn actually optimizes habits to help you create a system of ease and flow of work. And so it's that you're going from one thing to another in a systemic way that allows you to go in a cool state of mind, um, and doing the things that help you center first. So, for instance, for some people, if they don't pray in the morning and they head out, that day doesn't end well for them. They struggle through the day. All right. So, such people would likely typically use the Zen to Dawn system more. Okay, so these are the systems, and we're going to see how they start to interconnect with everything else that we're talking about today. The next thing we're going to be looking at, the second S, is structure. Structure. I'd like to hear which of these systems, and I'll just quickly go back to it a little bit here. I'd like to know who has used any of these systems, which ones you've used. Just let me know in the chat box, and I'm just curious to see which ones people use. Or if there's anyone you use that isn't mentioned here, I'd also love to hear it. So just tell me about it. Put that in the chat box. Like I said, we're learning together, and it would be helpful to others as well who might be going over this video now or later. So put it in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, so the second S we're going to be talking about is structure. And what is structure? So, structure is defined as an arrangement and organization of interrelated elements in a material object or system. Wow. Okay. Alexandra says she uses the Eisenhower matrix. Thank you so much. And I hope that you're finding it very useful. I'll be curious to hear how you pivot when something moves within that from one quadrant to another that is not within your control. That will be an interesting thing to really hear or know. I found myself in moments like that, and I pivot. All right, I pivot, but I know that pivoting doesn't come natural to everybody. It doesn't to me either. Quite frankly, I've just learned how to do it over time, and I'm going to show you how you can do it for yourself as well, and make sure that you work that into your day every single day. All right, so structure, 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 structure. How does structure help with productivity? If you have a system, how do you structure yourself within that system? And what are some of the things that you can use to help you stay committed to the system? Because the important thing with structure is that if you don't arrange how things flow within your system, you will run into issues. Okay. Now, back to the solar system, right? Yes, there's the system, there's all of these planets, and they revolve around the sun, but each one is positioned where they are intentionally by the designer, God, to create the functionality that we see in our world today. Now, even we as humans, we're doing things that is hurting that system, and we're seeing some of the effects. We call it global warming and whatever else we want to call it. And now we're shouting sustainability, which we should do, by the way. All right. But how do we do that? Okay. Precious says that she uses Eat That Frog. As a small business owner, I do the harder and time consuming orders first. See, and you see, this is the beauty about it, right? You see that two people have responded so far, and they both use different systems, right? I use a combination of systems, and it differs, right? Depending on, and I get what Precious is saying, depending on what you do within my business too. Sometimes I will tackle the hardest thing first, right? And so it's different things per time. So you see the beauty that different things will work for different people. Remember, you are the number one determinant on whether or not you are productive and what that looks like. Lots of productive people in the room today. Thank you guys for sharing that. Okay, so when you think about structure, one thing that I want to bring to mind is that think of your lives as rows and columns, right? So the row here, the top row being the horizon, your life's vision, your life's purpose. So Temi says she uses Pomodoro technique. Yeah, I that technique is very interesting. But yeah, glad that it works for you. So the Pomodoro technique really, and if can I remember what that I think it's that you focus on one thing, finish that in small time blocks, and then you move on to something else. So just it works great for people who struggle with attention span. So I would recommend, if somebody is out there, you're watching this and you know that you struggle with attention span, I would recommend the Pomodoro technique for you, really, because it teaches you how to just do small things in small blocks of time, and then get some break in between those things. All right, so back to structure. So the top row is your horizon. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Helps with focus. Yep, correct. All right. So the top row is your horizon, the bigger picture. And then it starts to pull down into smaller things to how you live on a daily basis. And that's where the vertical pull comes in. All right. So the horizon informs your goals, your actions, all the way down to your daily tasks. And yes, even the seemingly mundane things. You think you're just sitting down and watching that Netflix show. The truth is that it's adding or taking away from you. It's adding or taking away from the top row, the horizon, whether or not you believe it. Now, don't get me wrong. I watch movies. All right. My husband is a movie fan. And so sometimes I show love language by sitting down to watch movie with him. All right. And sometimes it's also my relaxing technique as well. But anyway, it's not like I'm saying don't watch movies. Please don't get me wrong. All right. But that in that moment, even the watching of the movie becomes very intentional and has a purpose that it is serving and not just time wasting. All right, so within structures, there are a number of things you can do. Calendar structure. What are the things that should be done in a given year? So many of us have set that. We have our vision board. What are the things that I need to do this year? Now, but how does that inform how you prioritize in each quarter? How does that inform how you prioritize in each month? How does that inform how you prioritize in each week? How does that inform how you prioritize in each hour, in each day? How does that inform how you prioritize each hour? And then down to the minutes. Now, I'm not saying you sit down and then start writing, so 3:05 to 3:55. There are people who do that. All right. But you don't necessarily have to, but you would always have to have that at the back of your mind. The horizon is there, but then it trickles down into the vertical axis as well. So, what tasks do you need to do to make sure that your horizon remains charged and that when you look at it, you're moving the dial in the things that matter? The big picture really starts to crystallize. All right. And so the next thing within the structure, so we've talked about calendar structures. The next thing is now the time structure, because eventually those calendars break down into time. And if you're like me and you still have a 9 to 5 with all of this craziness around me, then the truth is that you're probably dedicating at least 10 to 12 hours to that 9 to 5 if you count in your wake up and prep time and drive back time and all of that, right? It's about 12 to 10 to 12 hours of your day. And then you'll sleep. Doctors have told us it's 8 hours. I don't know where they're getting that from, but anyway, and then you'll sleep. And then you'll still do all these other things. So really, how much time there is there to really start to fit in all these things. And so you see that even the hour and how you leave would matter. And so what does your time structuring look like? All right. If you're like me too, that you have all of those things and then you still have kids extracurricular activities and you have to go to those things and you have other volunteer responsibilities, all of those have to fit within what's left in that, what, 10 hours of the day, and you still have to sleep. Anyway, I don't want to get into the time breakdown as much, but the truth is that how do you then structure so that every night when you go to bed, you're going with a smile in your heart? And then at the end of the year, when you look at your vision board, you can say, yep, thank you, Lord, I did move the dial, or thank you for helping me move the dial. Okay, remember one thing I said before, it's not what happens at the end of the year per se. It's the things that happen every day that adds up to what happens at the end of the year. So what then would happen is that the summation of 5 years is a summation of year one, year two, year three, year four. Summation of year one is summation of the first, second, third, fourth month all the way to the 12th. Summation of the first month is all the things that happened in each week. And so you want to make sure that all of those things are nicely tied together and you put those things in place. All right. And so there are main elements within the structures that would really ensure that you're doing this. So the first element is automation. What are some things that you can build to be automated? So, for instance, sometimes if you're someone who follows my write-ups on LinkedIn or on Instagram or whatever, right? Sometimes those messages will come out on Instagram, they'll come out on LinkedIn, and I'm probably in a meeting or I'm probably taking my lunch hour walk. It's automated. I would have time blocks set aside to do the write-ups, set aside to do the scheduling, and then it's automated. The rest takes care of itself. Now, I now would have time blocks that I can now go and if I want to add anything or share it to other platforms that might not support what I use currently, then I can do that. But even if I choose not to, then it becomes a question of what's prioritized for me in that moment. There are a lot of things that many of us can automate within our systems, right? You find something and then you automate it and say, okay, this I can automate and it takes care of itself. Emails, whatever, some things can go out. Number two thing is trackers. Trackers are things that help keep you on track. Pretty straightforward, right? And so, for instance, you have your yearly goals. It's broken down into quarterly goals, into monthly goals, and then you have somewhere where you keep them. You're looking at them. You're tracking the results that you're getting. Are they matching up and moving you to the dial of where you need to be by the end of the year? That's one. That's one style of tracking. The other form of tracking is, you're looking at the things that you need to do. So this is where some people use to-do lists, right? On a daily basis. Okay, what are the things that needs to get done, say, today? And then you're looking at them and you're tracking. The other piece is that there might be pieces of your life that, you have set some goals and you need something to keep you in check. So for instance, I have a Fitbit, right? I have some health goals for myself that I have set is I want to develop some healthy habits. One of it is that I want to make sure that I'm physically moving as much as I can, right? And I don't have all the time in the world to go to the gym every single day like some people might have, but how am I making sure that I'm not neglecting my health at the same time? And so I have my goals. I have to eat a certain number of steps every single day, and I have this to keep me on track. When I see that it's not working for a particular day and I know that, okay, it's time to get moving, what else can I do? And I remember I pivot when something, moves within my quadrants of important things and all of that. And then the third thing is prompters. All right. So there has to be prompters. So things that help you remember what is coming, things that help you remember what you need to do, alarms, calendars, and whatnot. One of my pet peeves that I'm finding these days is that it gets to me when people say, oh, I didn't show up because I forgot. You didn't set prompters for yourself to not forget. All right. And a lot of this too also comes down to values. And that's the truth. All right. It comes down to values. The things you value, you make the time for. However, sometimes it's not for lack of value, it's just for lack of proper planning. And that's the truth. All right. And so prompters, we have phones, we have systems, we spend time on them on TikTok and Instagram and whatnot. Again, not saying they're bad in and of themselves, but it's that there's so much more your phone can do for you. Leverage that and make your life easy. So, what are some prompters that you can set? What are some things that what I need you to do at the end of this is okay, here's my life. What are some things that I can automate? What are some things that I can start tracking to make sure that I'm not waiting till the end of the year to say, oh, shoot, I forgot about this one thing that I said I was going to do this year? And what are the things that prompt you to remind you? So within my own systems and everything that happened in my life, I constantly have to work with, my husband's calendar. If you look at our calendars, you just laugh. Anytime anybody tells us we have to do something, one of us is sending the other person invites, even in the things that we have to do as reminders. And you'll see why that is important in a moment here. So these three elements have to work within your structures to help you so that you're planning and you're not having things mixed up at work, at different places. So again, remember, there are several elements that are at work in your life. And how do you make sure that you're consistently producing the results you need with that sense of balance and you're not overwhelmed all the time? Okay. It hurts me when I see people are constantly overwhelmed. Sometimes you'll feel overwhelmed in life. It's normal. But when that's a consistent state, that's not healthy. And you need to watch that. Which brings us to the third S, and that is support. And that simply means things and or mostly in this instance, people that give support, bear aid, help you achieve the things that you need to achieve. No man is an island, and that is true. No one can do it all, and that is true. Right? I want to take a moment here to just say shout out to Ladies Arise. Um, for me, I quickly realized that I can't do this on my own. And so I reached out to some people and said, hey, how about we form an executive team? And they graciously accepted. And by the way, we're still looking for more people. We need someone to help with communications. So some of the posters and emails that go out and all that, we still need somebody to help with that piece because, yeah, My life actually will be getting busier than I intended. Coming into well, not necessarily that I intended, but it's about to get busier for me in my life. All right, and so I need all the help. This is me being honest. I need all the help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. As a matter of fact, it's a sign of strength. It's a sign of commitment to community. All right. So nobody is an island. So thank you to all the executive team members and Ladies Arise, because you're saying yes means that Ladies Arise can get to continue, and I'm not going under trying to, make it all work. I'm not a superwoman. Nobody is. So there are three main pieces of support that you need. All right. So there are people who are the primary support people. These are the people closest to you. These people are in your innermost circle. So it can be your husband or wife, your children. And if you're wondering, how do my children support me achieve my goals? I'll tell you this. My daughter knows that I need to do certain workouts every day. And every day, she doesn't know I observe her. Every day, she goes on that sheet on my wall and she looks to see if I have ticked my box for it. And because I don't want to disappoint, right? And so one day I actually caught her having a conversation with herself to say, Mommy has not done this for 2 days. I'll see if she'll do it today. And I'm like, so she really is paying attention. That keeps me on my toes. All right. So anyway, if you really want something done, believe you me, have a child hold you accountable. They'll put fire to your bum. You'll get moving in no time. How many of us can relate to that? Okay. And then there should be people within your inner circle that help you, in Regina, for instance, I have a family. My family has a family buddy that, sometimes you want that weekend getaway with your hubby. You don't want the kids around. Those are the people that you go to say, hey, can my kids stay with you? They know themselves. They start with a B, their last name. I just want to say it's very, very big shout out to the Babaji Days, because really everybody needs at least somebody within your circle like that. And it's not just them, quite frankly. There are other people, all right, that I know that I can reach out to say, hey, I need help, because I need to go recenter, I need to go refocus myself, I need to re-energize. Can you help me do this? She's a mother's daughter. Absolutely. All right. So, who are the people in your inner circle, and are you leveraging them? You don't have to go under. All right. The next set of people are secondary people who are in your inner circle. So, the first set are in your innermost circle. These are people who know the ins and outs. They know your struggle. They see the things that other people don't see, not the ones you show on social media only. They see the ones that other people don't see. All right. Somebody saw my frustrations with trying to get uh my live stream working between yesterday and today. I thought it was one thing, and then by the time I was trying to do the final test, it turned out it was something else. Somebody saw through that struggle. You don't. You see the live video, but I got support and I leveraged that support. Okay. That support might not always come with a smiling face for all the time, but it doesn't stop you from asking for it. And it doesn't stop you from giving it to other people too. The more you give, you make deposits in other people's lives, so that when you need to make withdrawals, you have something to withdraw. Always think about that. So the secondary people are more of burden bearers. And this is where the example of Ladies Arise executive team comes in, right? Is that these people come alongside you and they either provide information, they provide support, they provide they take on some of the work that you need to do, and that helps free up your time so that you have that time to do more. So for instance, I don't worry so much anymore about, oh, what are the books we're going to read every single month? There are people who now do that, right? And they each have an area that they go and do. Okay. And we've committed that they'll also worry about what that looks like for each month. And if we're doing challenges and we're going to make our community more lively, what that looks like, and we're going to divvy that up. What that does is I don't have to take all that burden anymore on myself, and it can free me up to do other things. And believe me when I say other things are coming in my life very shortly. All right. So these can be co-workers, these can be your managers at work, they can be mentors, they can be coaches, they can be counselors in your life. Imagine if you wanted to do something. So I know sometimes some people would say, hey, I'm looking for this thing online. I know where it is, right? If they have to go and find it, they'll probably spend 30 minutes to 1 hour surfing the web trying to find that information. And I can just go in 10 seconds, pull up a link and give it to them. I have just saved that person 30 minutes to 1 hour of their lives that they can now go and do something else with. And so when you think about these people, there are people that are there, and some might be closer to you more personally than others. But at the end of the day, there are people who are there and you need to leverage them. Some of us don't ask questions as we should, right? So leverage them, but leverage them wisely. I should say that. And then finally, we have the community, the wider community, the tertiary people. And these are the people that, one thing I find interesting is that the community people are the ones that tend to put a lot of ask on your time and don't have as much and won't be as impacted if your systems were to start failing. So I'll give an example. If I have to constantly talk to every single person to say, okay, review my resume, okay, do this, okay, do that. And that's just an example, please. Okay. What then happens is that I'm constantly in that space. I can't do my work. I can't, or even if I'm able to find my work to do, and maybe I leave that for late in the night and I'm doing all of those things much later because I've attended to all these other people. Chances are that they won't even acknowledge that you helped. That's number one. And nobody's even looking for the acknowledgement. Chances are that even if they pay you, you still need a structure and a system to manage yourself properly so that you don't get burnt out. Because if you get sick, the people that get impacted the most are the people in your innermost circle and the people in your inner circle. Because if you're sick, then your kids have to, maybe you can't feed them as you'd love to, or you can't really spend time with them as you should. They are the ones that are most impacted. Or you see those inner people in your lives are the ones that have to now leave their own lives to come support you and your family because you're sick. And then the inner circle people, you can't go to work. All right. And then your bosses, your colleagues now have to take on additional burdens because your system has broken down. And so you begin to see why it's important. Look, the power to say no is something that we all need to learn. And let me say this, as a culture, as a people, I'm an African, I'm a Nigerian, I'm also a Canadian, but let's speak to the Nigerian side. As Nigerians, especially when it's coming from a younger person to an older person, or a person, people on different stratas of authority, please let's get comfortable with hearing no from people. And I'm not saying no that is careless and trying to avoid work. No that is sincere on, I know I can't take on an additional task right now. Let's get comfortable. Let's normalize that, please. Because the truth is, when you give people the room to say no, when that time frees up, guess what? They will come back to you. They will do the task. Okay, so please, we need to learn how to say no, and we need to learn how to be okay with hearing no. Let's not kill people before their time. And then we'll go and cry for 5 minutes at their gravesites, but then their innermost circle have lost them. My children will not have another mother or father. Your husband will not have another wife. Well, I guess they can remarry, but you get the message. Anyway, moving on. All right. So please let's get comfortable with um let's get comfortable with hearing no's. One thing that is key to remember is leverage these people to ask for help as needed, delegate, so assign tasks where needed, identify places your money can help you buy back more time, leverage your support systems for accountability. They hold you accountable to the things that you said you will do. There's somebody on this call, yes, she's here, that I'm going to be checking on to say, hey, you said you're going to do this last weekend. How far? Where are you on it? All right. Let's leverage these people. Okay. We're going to take a quick 5 minutes break. So get up, drink water, go to the bathroom, do whatever, but we're just going to take a quick, it might not even be up to 5 minutes, quite frankly. And I will set my timer here. Set your timer too, so that you don't say, I forgot, you're learning this, start practicing it. I'll set my timer here for 3 minutes actually. I think 3 minutes should do. And I'll see you in 3 minutes instead of five. Okay. So, in the meantime, please leave me in the chat what is one thing you've taken so far? What is one thing that you're learning that is new? Or any comment you want to make to say, hey, Anita, you said this. I agree. Here's how I've seen it in my life. Please take a moment, put that in the chat. When I come, we'll look at the chat. If you have questions, put them in there as well. We'll look at the chat and then we'll go on from there. See you in a couple minutes. Okay, time flies. Okay, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Thank you, Candy. You agree with the importance of a support system. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So we're just going to jump in. So we've talked about what productivity is, what it is not. We've talked about why it's important. We've talked about the three S's that would help you. So systems, structures, and support. What systems are you using? What structures are you building within those systems? Your calendar, your time, and then what supports are you imploring to help you in your achievements of goals and life. All right, so now we're going to talk about two divergent productivity enablers. Now that we know, welcome back, everyone. Sorry, I welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all back. I see people are still online. So thank you for hanging with me up to this point. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. Um, thank you. All right. So yeah. Now that we know that, it's not so secret sauce of successful people, but then these are things that they consistently apply to produce great results that you and I can also leverage. We're going to look at two divergent enablers, and these are things that enable you to stay consistent over long term, so that it's not just a 5 minute motivation and then 2 weeks down the line it's over, we're done. All right. So you apply this to your systems, to your structures, to your support. Okay. Thank you, Tyre. So one thing that is resounding for me is leveraging on my support system and reciprocating same. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Truth be told, personally, I struggle with asking for help, not because I'm trying to be proud, honestly, but sometimes you just feel like I don't want to disturb other people. They have their own lives, but you never know until you ask. And that's the truth. You never know until you ask. So ask and then work out something with them, and that's why you need great people in your circle, honestly. One audit you should do in your life this year is audit of people. Who are the people in your innermost circle that shouldn't be there? Please don't throw out your wives and husbands. Children, don't either. You can't. Anyway, all right. So you're probably wondering how they are doing the same work as enablers if they are so divergent. That's because, of course, they are opposites. All right. They're going into, they seem like they're two different things, but then they actually work together to help you be productive. And so, what are these things? They are routine and flexibility. So remember when we talked about, the different systems of productivity and, how some of it might make it hard to pivot, right? So this is what helps you. All right. This is what helps you. Truth be told, successful people that are consistently productive have routine lives. Now, if you're somebody like me who struggle with rigidity, and remember, I didn't say they have rigid lives. I said they have routines. If you struggle with rigidity and tight schedules and ways of doing things, in other words, routines, then you might struggle a little bit with productivity. And this used to be a thing for me, but now I'm realizing more and more that if I'm really going to get more done, then I need to establish routines. And I started establishing routines. And in the ones that have been consistent over a couple years now, applying, I've seen results. So again, I can now leverage on that as confidence booster to add more routines that need to be in my life. And I'm currently building newer routines as we speak in my life. And I'm leveraging mentors to say, keep me accountable. I'm committing to doing this because it needs to get done, because it's an important piece. And I'm committing to doing this, and I need you to keep me accountable. Because I have to tell them how I am doing every week, it puts fire on my bum, honestly speaking. It makes me, remember to say, I don't want to let this person down. And I see the importance of what I'm doing here. And I want to be able to just really build myself to the point where it becomes like I'm on autopilot, right? And it becomes second nature. Okay. So routines would help you do that. However, so routines really will just be the repeated actions that are often sequenced that must be aligned regularly. All right. They must be aligned regularly. Now, but here's what happens is that the problem is that with routines, sometimes life would happen, and that's it. Life happens, something happens, life throws you a curveball you don't see coming. How do you make sure that you stay true to what you need to do? Remember the horizon? Your eyes are there. You still have that picture. You're moving the dial on that horizon. You're pulling on it daily, but something happens. But how do you stay committed to that and not fall away? Because what happens with a lot of people is once they fall away from one routine, it's twice as hard to get back on track. And so before you know, 2 weeks have passed and you haven't been able to get back on track. And so you're not able to really hit your goals and targets because you're constantly doing that dance around. And I know this, it's happened for me, it's happened to me, it's happened to me a lot. All right. And so you're constantly doing that dance, and it's like one step forward, 10 steps back. How do you make sure that that doesn't happen anymore in your life? Flexibility aligned with your routines is what helps you do that. And which begs the question, what is flexibility, especially within this context? Flexibility really is the ability to adapt to situations as they arise, but with unbending commitment to the original intent. All right, with the unbending commitment to the original intent. So when you think about trees that are flexible, when the winds blow, those ones are usually hardest to fall. All right, they can go with the wind and they would sway in the direction of the wind, but when all is said and done, they stand again. All right. So how do you make sure that, yes, when those moments come, when the winds of life come, you can sway back and forth. But when it's all said and done, you're still standing and you're true to the horizons of your life. How do you do that? You know, so I'll give you an example of what this looks like in my life, right? So routinely for about 2 years now, I've been doing this. Um, I started incorporating my workouts or my physical health, so to speak, into my lunch hour. I don't need 1 hour for lunch. Quite frankly, I don't. All right. And so 12 o'clock, I will go on prayers. And then 12 to 12:30 to 1, I'll go for a walk. That's what I've been doing. Now that helps me add additional layer to my prayer life that I desperately needed at the time that I started doing this. And then it also helps me put in some workouts where I go for walks and I do all of that. And I have people, colleagues who will go on these walks with me. So on days that I'm tired, I had this one colleague, she'll come knock on my door. Okay, let's go. We'll go out for walks. All right. Now, problem is that the kind of work I do, also sometimes you have to have meetings with people in other parts of the country and then time zones, and then they fix meetings over your lunch hour. When I first started doing this, one of the things that quickly happened to me that I realized was when those meetings get fixed, especially when they happen day one, day two, day three, it's a struggle to get back on track, right? And so flexibility had to come in. I had to ask myself, what am I trying to achieve here? Okay, I had specific way I had broken up my prayer life where there were things I was doing within that time block. Okay, so then what can I do? I don't want to have to lose those time blocks, or I don't want to have to not do those specific things on those daily basis. And so flexibility, what it allows me to do is that when those meetings are set and they come, I know that I can pivot quickly from what has moved within my quadrant from what was not supposed to be urgent and important that is now urgent and important. It's pushing this thing out of my life, but I'll make sure that within my day, I find another time block. Now, remember when we're talking about structuring and scheduling your time and your calendar? Within your calendar, you also want to time block emergency times. So there are times within my day that if you call me and you're lucky, I'm not doing anything per se, and I can pick your call and we can have a good chat for 30 minutes. But for most times of my day, if you call me, you may not get me on the first ring. There are times that you may. When you see those days happen and those times happen, it means that there's some room of flexibility that I have within that time block, and you were just lucky to call right at that moment. When those moments come and I can't, and something shifts in my routine, I stay committed to the horizon by now leveraging those extra times within the day to redo what needs to be done, so that when I go to bed, I don't go to bed with that feeling of, oh, I still have this one thing that I haven't done. And then there are days that still happens, to be fair, right? It's a work in progress. We're all learning and growing through these things together, right? But you don't want to make that a habitual thing where you're always going to bed with that feeling of, oh, I feel defeated. I didn't do what I needed to do. That's not what we're trying to do here. We want to move you away from that. So, the sweet dance and balance between routines and flexibility is how you ensure that you stay true, all right, but also learn how to pivot when you need to pivot. So look at your calendar and say, where are some times that I can block out for flexibilities, for things that I can say, okay, within this time frame, if anything comes up, I can pivot myself in here very quickly. All right. So routines enable you develop um routines keep you consistent in the things you need to do, and then flexibility allows you to stay true to them when life throws you a curved ball. And now we're going to talk about two convergent drivers. So these ones actually work together to really drive your productivity and make sure that you're consistent and true to what you're doing per time. um so one thing I want to say quickly is that routines enable you to develop one of these drivers, while flexibility would enable you to stay true to the things in your horizons. And I think I mentioned that one already. But where they meet is that they actually both help you play the long-term game. So consistency, right? Consistency. That's what it helps you do. Working within this helps you stay consistent. Thank you so much, Ma. I didn't even realize you're here. Thank you so much, Ma. Pastor Mrs. Allow Me is here. Thank you, Ma, for being here. It says realistic ways to stay true to the plan 100%. Thank you so much, Ma. See, that's somebody that actually does a lot that I wonder how she gets all that done, to be honest with you. So thank you, Ma. All right, so two convergent productivity drivers. These ones are not opposites, okay? So they work hand in hand to drive your productivity, and they are the scales of balance to the divergent ones. And I just want to make sure that that is clear. So they help bring that balance to the divergence. All right, so they work together to drive your productivity, and they balance the divergent enablers. Now, habits. There's another word for habits. We don't like that one. It is the D word. The D word we don't like, discipline. And I intentionally used habits instead of discipline because I felt like some people will leave the room once they see discipline, like, yep, of course. I know they would say it's discipline, but people, I've tried several things. And I wish I can tell you that you can be successful without discipline, but you can't. And it doesn't matter what you do. The truth is that discipline matters. Okay. Now, habits, routines, eventually will become habits. So when you consistently, regularly do specific tasks over every day to day, you show up, you do it. Eventually, they become habits. Routines are the things you do consistently, and then habits is that it has now become part of who you are. In other words, it has informed part of your identity. All right. It has informed part of your identity. And this is why you need to pay attention to the things you do on a day to day basis, because you are enforcing an identity. Again, if you've read Atomic Habits, for those of us in Ladies Arise, I'm sure we're all excited now because it's like, hey, we're seeing some of these things we've read, really come. And I know that we've been applying these things in our lives, right? But it's even just the thoughts behind it and what that looks like day to day. Okay. So eventually, routines will become habits, and when habits are formed, they become part of who you are. um and then the other piece is focus. All right, focus. You cannot apply discipline and stay consistent if you're not a focused person. This is why we say productivity is not multitasking. All right, because especially when it comes to those brain type of work, you need to focus. Again, another book we've read in Ladies Arise that I think really comes to mind here when I was, putting this together was Deep Work. Okay, deep work. And deep work really is that state of flow where it's like the ideas are pouring in. I wish I can tell you that as a creative, that you're constantly in that space of inspiration all the time. You are not. When I was writing my book, believe you me, there were so many times I was far from inspired in writing that book, to be honest with you. But the truth is that focus, by the time you show up, right, you say, okay, every day I will write 500 words, or every week I will write 2,000 words. And then you show up and you sit down. Half of the times when I'm sitting there for the first 30 minutes, I'm there and I am blank. But then I say, I will not move an inch until I put some words down. I must see black on white. When I now start putting it down, all of a sudden it's like something happens. And before you know, you spend 3 hours, you're seated there and you think you spent 30 minutes. That is deep work. You don't get there without constantly applying the power of focus. If you take a magnifying glass and then you channel the sun's rays to a piece of paper on the ground, if you stay there long enough through that glass, you will absorb the power of that sun and you will burn up that paper. You will burn up the tasks that you need to do. When you stay in that place and say, I will keep bringing my mind back to this task that is at hand, I will keep staring it in the face until the inspiration starts to come, I will show up. But you cannot get there if you don't even show up. And that is why I said that I struggle with, should I say discipline or habits? Because the truth is that discipline is what makes you show up. The routines, as you're putting them, eventually become habits, but you have to show up. And quite frankly, sometimes work will be boring. Discipline is what keeps you there until you apply focus. And then when you apply focus, you get into a state of deep work. And when you're in a state of deep work, there is flow. And what was once boring now becomes interesting. And when someone else comes and distracts you from it, you're like, oh, why? How many of us have felt that? I know I felt that, a lot. Okay, so please, whatever you do, please get in the habit of showing up for yourself. Show up for yourself. If you block out a time to do something, show up in that time. If you if something happens and life throws a curveball, leverage flexibility, but always show up. So again, these books are all books that we've actually read in Ladies Arise. And ladies, really thank you for those who have read. I'm looking through this and I'm thinking, I feel like I want to go back and read some of those books again. But yeah, many times. Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, if we're going to achieve the things that we have set for ourselves this year, we're going to need to apply these enablers. We're going to need to apply these drivers on a consistent basis, daily, daily, daily. When your mind is fully engaged, it becomes easier to stay focused. And so, habits occur daily or over specific times, and then focus occurs per time with tasks at hand. Okay. So I've talked about this a little bit already, which is that between the habits and focus, showing up is what matters, and showing up really is discipline. So for those who have been waiting for that word, you are welcome. I know we don't like it. I personally, I struggled with this too. It took me a process to finally accept that. And I have to stay disciplined. I have to build routines. I have to build habits. And this is me just being my most authentic self here. I'm being honest with you. Okay. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the core element that ties back to the number one determinant. Who's the number one determinant again? You and I. Okay, we are the number one determinant on whether or not no one is going to come and be productive for you. All right, but this is a core element that ties both you, your systems, your structures, your support, the enablers, and the drivers. This is what ties it together. And the truth is that the thing with this one is that many of us try to function without understanding this piece. And that's where we fall flat on our faces. Because yes, sometimes it's not that you really lack the discipline. You show up, but you genuinely, honestly cannot just get things done. And that happens, right? And yes, sometimes you're flexible, you move things around. It's okay, let me move it here. But then if you still don't understand these core elements, you'll still struggle. All right, because this determines the kinds of activities you structure within your day. It determines what should go where, what makes sense to go where. And this is called productivity cycle. Do you know your productivity cycle? It was interesting. A couple weeks back, I was having this conversation with some friends at my house, and I was just laughing in my mind when we are talking about it because I'm like, oh, they didn't know that we're going to be talking about this at the webinar. Maybe I should have told them. I don't know. But anyway, but if you're finding it hard to create and maintain schedules, all right, it means that you don't know your productivity cycle and you need to figure out what it is. Now, this is the part where the 5 a.m. club members are like, come on, please. It's very simple. Wake up early in the morning. No, no. On behalf of all the non 5 a.m. club members, I say, no, we're settling this thing right here, right now, today. This is the part where I play a lot. Okay. Part of my playfulness. All right. So, yeah, it's not an argument, but quite frankly, and I mean to some degree, there is benefits to waking up early, and I don't mean 5 a.m. because early is relative. All right. Again, the piece is about you, your success, your kind of work, your regular routines, and your life phase. All right. For somebody who doesn't have kids to worry about getting ready for school early in the morning, I don't know if, and your work maybe doesn't start until say 12 p.m. I don't know what waking up at 5 a.m. will do for you, especially if that is not your productivity peak hour. All right. You will just, for me personally, when I wake up at 5, it makes my day feel extra long. And by 12, I'm checked out. So I can't. All right. I just can't. Now, but I still have to go to work. I still have to be at work by 8:30. All right. I still have to be at work at those times. So how do you manage that and still get some of these other things done? And I'm sure somebody's probably thinking that. All right. So, but your morning really is your productivity peak hour. If you haven't hit that peak hour, you're not awake yet. You can be awake and doing things, but believe you me, you're probably just going through the motions. But there are ways around that, and we're going to look at that in a moment here. The opposite of your productivity peak is your productivity peaks. So your peak and your peaks, and you want to know what those times are within the day to help you channel, and structure within the systems that you use. All right. Now, the thing is that there's an in between that, okay, awesome. That's a very great question. The question is, how do we balance saying no to your boss to some responsibilities? And I'll get to that in a moment. Beautiful question. I love that question. Thank you, Alexandra, for asking that. Okay, so the in between, right, is what I call your afternoon, really, right? And this is a period that your tank is not empty, but it's not full. All right. So there's still some room for churning out some work. All right. And leveraging your productivity cycle there. All right. So for people who are extreme early morning people and people who are extreme late night people, within your 9 to 5, what you then now need to do is that you want to, if it feels like, okay, well, if it's not 5 a.m., I'm not at the very peak, I'm not at the peak, right? But you know that, okay, by 8 a.m., I'm still a bit full. All right. And you, let's say, resume work at 8 or 9, you can still leverage your ugly frogs, eat those ugly frogs within that time frame. Now, if unfortunately for you there are meetings, then maybe have a conversation around that. Or if the meetings are not every day, then you want to see how you start to schedule your time and days around, say, okay, if I have this to do or that to do, then I'll do this. If you have the opportunity to work from home or log into your system or get to work a little earlier, and some people do this, right? You see, this is where some of the flexibility starts to make sense, where you're committed to your routines, but then you're starting to move the dial where and how you can. All right. Now, again, all this informs how you even need to be intentional with the kinds of jobs that you do. Be committed to your horizon. That informs even the kinds of job you do, but that's not even the concern we're having here today. We can't even have that conversation here and now. All right. So, but one thing I want to also say is that the peak and peak periods are not just 3 hours, 5 to 8 in the morning, and then 10 to 1 a.m. in the night. The truth is that it's a hills and valleys movement. And that's the truth. And that's something I have found. Pay attention to yourself. You'll notice that too, that it might be between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m., you're high alert, you're full. But then maybe between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., you're also high alert, you're also full. So paying attention to yourself, how you work, how you function really matters. And knowing where those hills and valleys are within the day really matters. So within a 24-hour cycle, there are more than one peak periods and there are more than one peak periods. You want to know what those times are. For me, I leverage my um work like office work. My peak periods, one of my peak periods within the day is from 1 p.m. after I come back from my lunch, prayer, and walk. I'm actually energized, right? And so that's a peak period for me. And I want to say that sometimes you can leverage some Zen moments to artificially create peak periods for yourself. All right. So typically, I didn't used to be an afternoon person, but I noticed that since I started doing my lunch hours and prayer walk, I do that. So now, even at work, once it's 12, unless the meeting is extremely important that I can't get away from, you hear me tell them, guys, I gotta go. I need this time. I need to recenter. And I'm off. Because if you're gonna get me in my utmost best, let me have that my 1 hour. Let me just go spend time with my father. Let me go take that walk. When I come back, I'm recharged. All right. So you can artificially recreate peak periods for yourself. So find those times that you can. And maybe some of the Zen things in your life, the things that energize you, see how you can start to put them close together within times of your day to create that peak for yourself so that you can go through, especially if you're not somebody, if you're on the extremes of productivity cycles, early mornings that nobody is working or late nights that nobody is working, you want to learn how to start to create artificial peak periods for yourself. Problem is because they're artificial, they also crash faster. All right. But within that time, you block time off, and then you know that this period, once I have it and I hit that peak, I'm going to quickly go do XYZ for myself. Now, to the question on how do you say no, all right? A number of things. Number one, what are the things that you have committed to doing? You want to show that there are things that you really are doing. So you're not just going to go to your boss and say, okay, I'm just saying no to this because I want to be able to be productive in this in my life. You're going to say, here are the things that you've assigned me to do. All right, can we have a conversation on whether or not the priorities are now shifting? So remember the quadrants. Are the priorities shifting? Is this now moving from it wasn't as important, or do you want us to maybe talk about reprioritizing what you'd like to see me do first? Or can I come back, say, in a week or two, and then we can have the conversation? Can this wait for a week or two, and then I can come back or check in with this person if they can do it, right? So the way you have that conversation, you want to show that the things that you're actually doing, maybe even with some deadlines to say, I'm working on, so let's say I'm working on an e-scan. I'm working on fine tuning the team schedule for the next whatever that we're supposed to do, right? And then your boss comes to say, okay, now I need you to do these other things. You can say, okay, I'd love to do those, all right, but these are the things that I'm working on. I expect to finish these things by this time. Do you think this has more priority over this? If yes, then maybe let's talk about what you'd like for me to move here so that we can accommodate this one thing, or you have the conversation to leverage to say, when else can we fix this? I don't know, Alexandra, if that helps answer your question. But the truth is that even at work, you don't want to take way too much than you can chew, because keeping things simple is also very key. So let me know if that helps. And if anybody has a response to that, something you do, how you go about the conversation, let me know. Because I know that in some workplaces, it's not easy to have those conversations with bosses. And I should tell you, if you're in a workplace like that where you can't have those honest, open conversation with your bosses, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're in a toxic workplace and maybe you need to talk about getting out of there, because you should be able to have conversations around making sure that you're consistently productive. It works for the organization as much as it works for you. So happy to know if that helped answer the question. And so, on a daily basis, all that we've talked about. You know what your productivity cycle is. On a daily basis, how do you then apply yourself so that you are consistently, producing the results that you need? Apply this daily rule. Okay, awesome. Apply this daily rule of thumb, the 80-20 rule. This is based on the Pareto principle that states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences, or in this case, roughly 80% of results would come from 20% of causes, or in this case, will come from 20% of inputs. So, how does this apply to productivity? Daily, ask yourself, especially for those of you that have 50 to-do list every day, take a look at that to-do list and say, what is the 20% that I need to do today, right? That if at the end of the day, I'm not able to get through all these 50, what is the one that matters the most for today, but also for my tomorrow, your horizon, right? What is the one thing that matters the most for today? Last 2 years ago, if you had asked me that question on a yearly basis and you apply the same and you start to scale it, for this day, what is the 20% that I need to focus on that would have the 80% impact on my life? For this week, what is the 20%? For this month, what is the 20%? And that's how I live. To be honest with you, that's how I live, right? Sometime in March, if you ask me this question, the truth is that the 20% are two things. One is my kids have a tournament that is coming up and I'm dedicating my time to that. So in that weekend, you won't find me because that's where I'll be. And I'll need to refresh from that because we're volunteering and it's going to be a very long weekend, right? So you won't see me for that weekend, for that month. You won't see me in that weekend. All right. Now, the second thing in that month of March is that I need to be somewhere. I'm going on vacation, right? So you won't see me at all. It's a month that when you really now start to think about it, it's almost as if that month has now been dedicated to something that adds to my life horizon, my family's horizon in that sense. And so really daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, 2 years ago, if you ask me this question, the one thing that I needed to do in 2021 that mattered, that if I did absolutely nothing in 2021, the one thing I absolutely needed to do that year was get a complete manuscript for my book Revealed. And that's exactly what I did. In 2022, the one thing that absolutely mattered, or the two things that absolutely mattered, we needed to go back home to Nigeria, and then I needed to do a book launch, and that happened. And then there were other things. The third thing was I needed to also put in an application for my PhD program. And those things happened. Right now, when it comes to this year, the concern is now different. Okay. And so every day, and that starts to break down from my family, my spiritual, my finances, it starts to break down to say, what are the 80%, 20% that I need to focus on that would have the highest impact on my life. So daily, keep it that way. Look at it yearly, monthly, and then start to break it down for yourself. That way you will be consistent. Thank you. Yes, sir. The 80-20 rule. So glad to hear. Okay. All right. So that way you'll be consistent and that way you'd have that sense of balance around the different things that you need to do. Okay. And then I talked about that it helps also keep your eyes on the horizon. So you're thinking about it from a micro state level daily, but also a macro state. What's the horizon? All right. Because again, how you live your life on a day-to-day basis adds to it. It adds to it. Last night, I wasn't fully 100% done with this presentation as at 8 p.m., as at 7 p.m. last night, but I committed to taking my daughter out and doing some stuff with her. 7 p.m., did just that. And quite frankly, you might think it takes away from the time that you need to put into this. So by the time I came back, and they all went to bed, I was re-energized to complete what I needed to do. All right. So daily, but also the horizon. And here we are today. And I hope we're all having fun. And I hope that this is making sense for us. Okay. And this really is what now leads us into the daily habit core tracker. Now it is habit core because, and the link to this is it's in this video already. I think, yeah, it is in the video already. Now, the thing is that, like I mentioned, for me personally, I leave from my core. All right. Now, again, that's a whole different conversations. Now, you can leave from your core, and what this means is that you're leaving your life, and everything you do is informed by an alignment between your purpose, your values, and your vision. That's how I live. And my number one value is my faith in God. And so everything I know, it's hard to explain. Again, different conversation, but how I everything I do really is informed by that. So it's informed by that. So the choices of career that I make, it's informed by that. I needed to free up more time for myself. I used to be one of those people that would say I can't do work from home, right? But as I started to look at the horizon of my life, as I lean into my purpose, as I lean into my values and my vision, I realize that if I'm going to be as productive as I want in the things that I need to do with my life, or that I'm looking to do with my life, then I need to actually pivot from that. All right. I need to pivot. So my commitment is not necessarily to a job as it were. All right. I seek to stay committed because that also impacts me, right? And how I am perceived by potential employers. However, there are things that are bigger than just the job and just the pay that drives all of that. So when you leave from your core, you want to make sure that you have daily habitual things that keep you centered. So this for me started out with, what are the core things that I need to do that keeps me centered? I have a morning workout routine that I do. It's not anything huge. It's just something that helps me wake up. Remember, I said you can create artificial peak hours. So I'm not a morning person, at least not anymore. I used to be. I don't know what happened. Life is, I don't know. But now I use those morning workouts as an artificial peak period. So it's what tells me, yep, you're awake, and it gets my brain functioning. All right. For some people, it's that's prayer. For me, sometimes I can try to do the prayer first, but I realize I'll drag. But once I roll out of that bed, do those, few jumping jacks and whatever that I do, once I do that, it actually gets me awake. And then I cue it with go make coffee. And once I have those two combined, then we can now talk about prayer and everything else, because that's how I, you know, go from Zen to done. All right. So you see that it all has to come together. It's actually beautiful. Sorry, I'm a geek, nerd, whatever the right word is. Proudly so. All right. So the tracker is in there. You just put in so whether it's the core things you want to do that you want to track, or there are new habits you want to form, again, put it in there. It's interesting that as at the time that I had mapped this out that I wanted to do it, Atomic Habits, that we read once, it's become one of my most favorite book. The guy actually pulled out something that honestly mirrors exactly what I had in mind. But I was like, you know what, dude, I'm just gonna share yours. I'm gonna share mine anyway. I've put in the work, so I'll share mine. All right, so feel free, go grab the tracker. It's free. There's none of this is paid. All right, so we're almost at the end, and recognizing that there's been a lot of information. All right, there's been a lot of information that has gone out. I want to wrap it up for you with a cup of tea. All right, let's wrap it up for you with a cup of tea. Let me know, if this has been useful to you, if this has been helpful to you, what that looks like, what you've learned. Feel free to add additional context, insight to something that you've heard today. But a lot of information has gone out. Feel free to rewatch this. It's going to be there. I'm not going to take it down. I'm not going to put some code and money on it. No, this is a free content, and it's going to be there for you to access. But I want you to take a cup of tea, but not this kind of tea. I will definitely be having a cup of tea myself after this. I deserve it. But this is the tea that I'm talking about. All right. If you remember absolutely nothing today, remember to take a cup of tea. All right. And T really here is an acronym for time, energy, and attention. All right. In this concept of being productive and making it consistent to help you achieve the goals that you need in life. In doing this, you always want to remember T, all right? Time, all right? And when you manage these three things right, it's kind of like, what really wraps it all up together when you think about it. It's a simpler way of wrapping it up together. When you think about these three things, manage them well, and I promise you that you realize that it's like you've gone into this autopilot phase where you're not putting in so much effort. It doesn't feel like you're putting in too much effort, but then you're turning out great results consistently. All right. And the first one is time. All right. So a practical way to really put this to use is what we're talking about here. So in time, you're asking yourself constantly, where can I free up time? All right. Where can I free up time by delegating to your support systems? Where can I free up time by leveraging what others know rather than spend 50 hours on the internet looking for information? Oh, you're so welcome, Laura's Delights. Thanks for being here. Thank you, Femi, for being here. Yep. I know that these are people that I have a lot of people that are high achievers on this call today. Please, you people share, because people are supposed to even be here doing this course with me, Seth. I mean, this webinar with me. All right, but thank you so much. I really appreciate your presence here. All right, so you're constantly asking yourself, where are time stealers? So TikTok, Instagram, all those things. Again, in and of themselves, they are not bad if it's vital, if it's instrumental to what you need to do, horizon and daily. All right, it's not. But when it becomes things that start to steal your time, you want to watch out for them. Depending on what I do, sometimes I have browsers closed up. It's not every time I'll have it open for whatever, or on my phone, I put my phone on silence and I put it away. You want to see how you can gain more time by finding things that you can automate. So, what are some things in your life that when you leave here, you can automate? I don't want to hear things like, oh, I forgot. Start scheduling things, use your calendars. These are simple things when you think about it, quite frankly. All right. And then finally, you want to track time by making sure that you're scheduling your priorities and not the other way around. What most of us do is we have a to-do list, and then we start trying to tick off our to-do list. No, what are the priorities? Remember the 80-20 rule? What are the big things, the main things that really matter that needs to get done? Those things are the things you schedule. Everything else will now start to revolve around those things. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much, Femi. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So remember this. All right. When you have energy and you have attention, but you don't have time, you'd always be overwhelmed. And I want to mention that this T framework is not my idea. Actually, I got it from I got the concepts, from some readings that I've been doing, but even more particularly, I have repurpose some of the content from this particular one from HGN Efficiency. So feel free to check it out. Really, I think they have great content on productivity and time management. All right. So if you have energy, you have attention, but you don't have time, you'd always be overwhelmed, feeling like I have a million things to do, but never enough time. Number two is energy. All right. So the second thing is energy. Most people have the time and they'll pay attention. They just need to find the energy to do it. And that's why you hear things like, I'm not motivated. All right. Discipline. Just show up and start. Show up and start. Your feelings will catch up. Feelings are they can be very fickle. They'll catch up. All right. So, but when you even think about energy, you want to think about things that boost your energy. All right. Things that help you feel motivated. So remember when I said that I create artificial peak times for myself by doing zen things that get me alert and high. So you want to you want to develop healthy habits on a daily basis. All right. And then detox the things that, look at your environment, look at your people. What are certain conversations you have that when you're done you feel drained? Avoid them. What are certain things that when you do, or certain people you hang around that when you do you feel drained? Avoid them. Stick with the ones that when you're done you're energized to want to do more and do better. Find those kinds of people and surround yourself with that kind of support system, and then go with no. All right, learn how to say no. It's powerful. So remember that when you have time and you have attention, but you don't have energy, you're constantly exhausted. I know personally, I've been in this space. I didn't know how to say no. Everything I'll say yes, until I realized that, man, nobody's going to help me say the no. Remember, you're the determining factor. Finally, attention. All right. So attention. You want to make sure that after you you have the time, you have the energy, you want to focus. This is where the focus really comes in. All right, you want to focus. If you're easily distracted, this is where your own comes. All right, so how can you put smaller goals? Tammy said earlier that she uses the Pomodoro technique for as a system of productivity, and that's one of the things that they preach is do smaller chunks of work, take break, and then come back and do smaller chunks of work. So if you're struggling with attention, really look into that system. It will help you. And then the other thing you can do is that eat the ugliest frogs first, block out time, and then eat the ugliest frogs first. Okay, so remember that time plus energy without attention means you're constantly distracted, and we don't want that for you. All right. So thank you so much, guys. This is it. This is it. This is it. We made it. We made it. We made it. We made it. Thank you so, so much. Thank you, Eniola. I see you there. Thank you, sis. I'm glad to hear that you've gained a lot. Please be sure to grab those. Oh boy. Be sure to grab those. Be sure to grab those. Um, to grab the tracker there. And yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Alexandra, thank you so much, guys, for being here. I really appreciate it. Please, even though we're done, yes, the live session is ending now, but feel free to share the link as well so that people can see it. This is showing up on Facebook, it's showing up on YouTube. I'm sorry again to our LinkedIn people that we couldn't share this with you there as planned and as expected, but we'll be sure to share the link with you so that you can access the replay. Thank you, Michael, for being here. Thank you, Femi. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Tayo. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Michael. Yep. And thank you, Candy. Thank you, Abiola. Thank you, BC. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to do this with you. And for Ladies Arise, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, I didn't put that up in my slides. We are reading Becoming in the month of February. So please start getting your books. You get the email on or before the 1st of February. You get that email there that tells you that. If you're not part of the community yet, I encourage you. I'll put the link on how you can join, or you can sign up to just get emails if that's what you want to do, so that you know what we're doing per time. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and please apply yourself. I want to see us all succeed. That's why I do the things that I do. I want to see us all succeed. And I know that, people say the sky is your limit. No, the sky is a starting point. There's so much more beyond the skies. Okay. And I will see you at that top, because that's where we all rightfully belong. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next thing, wherever that is. Okay. Thanks. Bye.